Good evening. The first time that I taught ethics and international affairs here in the fall of 1988 was my second year at Ripon College. And I had the privilege of many gifted students, but one of the most outstanding was Kathryn Schultz. She did so well in the course that I very naively turned in the grade of A+. And then Michelle Whitler, our registrar and now associate dean, kindly reminded me we can't go that high. The system can't compute it. She was a high achiever. In the course itself, when we came to the topic of the ethical use of force in the syllabus, Kathryn became very interested. She, as the rest of us and the students in the course with myself, realized that traditional just war principles simply could not legitimize any kind of nuclear war in the modern world. It is beyond all moral limits, given its unmanageable destructive consequences for humanity and for all life on the planet. That perhaps was the beginning of her commitment to pursue a career in arms control that has become her life vocation. After Ripon, Kathryn started with internships and fellowships in think tanks in Washington, D.C., dealing with reducing conflict, and you can read about that in her bio in the program. But her goal was to secure a position in the U.S. government where she could make a difference in helping reduce the nuclear arms race. For the past 22 years, she has worked tirelessly in doing so. First in the U.S. Arms Control and Disarmament Agency, and now in the U.S. Department of State, where she currently is Senior Advisor on South Asia in the Bureau of International Security and Non-Proliferation. This woman from Wapaka, this loyal alumna of Ripon College, this accomplished soprano and choir director, who once wore a cheesehead hat in leading a chorus of Don We Now Our Team's apparel at Secretary Condoleezza Rice's Christmas party, while whipping off her jacket to display a Brett Favre jersey. She has a sense of humor. You have to have a sense of humor in arms control. This devout Lutheran Christian woman now sits at the table with Hindu generals and scientists in India and their Muslim counterparts in Pakistan. All men, might I add. She uses her calm demeanor, her diplomatic skills, her knowledge of weapons systems, to convince them not to use nuclear weapons against one another. Amidst many cycles of tension these two nations of India and Pakistan have experienced over the last several decades. We today hear about simmering conflicts in the Middle East, and unfortunately in recent days the very real threat of full-blown war between the United States and Iran. South Asia, however, is also a tinderbox that could erupt at any time. One reason we do not hear much about India and Pakistan preparing to launch nuclear weapons against each other is because of Kathryn. She is at the forefront in helping these two nations avoid a nuclear catastrophe, despite their awesome nuclear arsenals. What an importantly, politically important task and truly ecumenical venture this woman has taken on her shoulders since she has left Ripon. At MIT, my former institution, I taught some very bright students preparing for a career in military industries where they would build horrendous destructive weapons. At Ripon, I have had the privilege of teaching students aiming to make the world more just and peaceful. Some serving in international NGOs, some in U.S. Foreign Service, some in counterterrorism, some in national defense, and some in arms control and disarmament. Kathryn R. Schultz is a superlative example of one of those people, and an example of what a Ripon liberal arts education steeped in ethics can do to produce a person dedicated to peace. Thank you, Kathryn, for making the world safer for all life on this planet. I present to you Kathryn R. Schultz of the class of 1989 for a distinguished alumna citation.
Thank you, Brian, for those very kind words. And just a correction, I'm an alto. I may have a nice range and have to sing soprano once in a while when we're low on people, but I am not a soprano, as my sopranos in the audience can attest to. But thank you so much for those kind words, and it means so much to have you as the presenter today, Brian. You've been instrumental in my life while I was a student and while I've, been an alum, so thank you so much. And you do so much for this college, and we are so blessed to have you here, and you can never retire. So make a note of that when you meet with Zach, okay? And thank you to the Alumni Association Board of Directors for this great honor. I deeply appreciate that. And thank you to all my friends who've come out tonight for this. I deeply appreciate you being here. As many have noted, you don't really accomplish anything in life without your network, without your friends, without the people who teach you every day, whether they're in a formal role or not, who support you every day, who lift you up, whether it's an encouragement, with that emoji that one day when you need something because, something else happened in the world that is not good. So thank you all. My friends, so many faculty who have been instrumental in my life. Thank you very much. I'm reminded every time I come back to Ripon, Michelle Whitler, the great registrar and also a former recipient of this award. I worked in her office as a student worker, and Michelle always greets me with "Welcome home." And Ripon, it really is our home. It's certainly mine, not just because of the 4 years I spent here as a student, haunting all these buildings, and it's so wonderful to always be back and see them. And the treasured friends I made here, and the lessons I learned here that I've taken with me into my life. But it's also because of, Ripon is also home because of the treasures that we take onward in our life, and because of the commitment that all of us have toward the liberal arts education that we learn here, that really transcends the 4 years' time, that transcends class year, that transcends major, that transcends whether we spent our time in Rodman, or Farr Hall, or Storzer. We all have that deep commitment to that liberal arts tradition and to Ripon College that makes it that home that we continue to nurture back because it nurtured us. I want to do a shout out especially to those who have manifested that commitment in terms of financial support for the college. Because without that kind of support, students like me would have never been able to come here. I never would have been able to come to Ripon had I not received a bunch of different scholarships and awards. And it underscores, I think, the commitment of those who came before who I've never met, and the importance that we all have for this institution. and like paying it forward. So wanted to just underscore that as well. I think it's also one of those important things to kind of take with us that, you know, these kinds of awards, they're a wonderful acknowledgement of service made, and it's wonderful to receive this from, you know, what you consider your home, and the people who've nurtured you, and the people who, you know, you hold dear to your heart. I also consider it a challenge to continue to do more and do better. So I thank you for that as well. And finally, since I'm the last person up, can I just give a shout out to Amy Gerritsen, who did a tremendous job with this award. But again, thank you so much for this award.